Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy Hump Day, my little buddy.
Happy Hump Day, Big Crudy. It is always a pleasure to join you on the people's airwaves, man.
Dominic, we've got an outstanding show for our audience today. A really big show, including comedian Will Durst, Milwaukee's own.
Yeah.
He's coming home this week. He's got a couple of big shows in the state of Wisconsin, and none bigger than his appearance right here on Brady Street in studio with us about 3:30, like 25 minutes. Stick around. It's going to get funny up in here.
Is 420 coming early today?
We'll have to see what Will's schedule looks like. Also, State Rep Chris Taylor, one of our favorites. She is back. A repeat attendance of the ALA conference. Our pal Chris Taylor going to call in the 4 o'clock hour. Also, a fine Dem candidate. I guess she's an assembly candidate. We met her at Labor Fest, and I guess I've seen her around the state a few times. Lillian Cheeseman in the happy hour about 5:40 today. But Dominic, I think it's only appropriate today, briefly, to start with an apology.
Aw, thanks, man. You know, I know you call me names all the time, and I really appreciate you stepping up. It's big of you to do so, and I know I play like it's okay, but you know sometimes it hurts a little bit, man.
No, not you, moron.
What?
I have a differing apology to offer to the wedge, the Widgerson guy, you know.
The right Wisconsin guy?
The right Wisconsin guy, or as I hashtag his editorial yesterday, Wisconsin racist right. Now, you did invite him on the show today.
I did. Of course I did, Crudy. That's what true journalists do.
And he said, perhaps, but only if I get an apology. So here it is. I'm sorry, Mr. Widgerson, that you're such a wussy. I'm sorry that for such a thick guy, you're so thin-skinned.
Oh, come on.
But I got to tell you, Dom, if it walks like a racist and it talks like a racist, you just might be a little racist. So I don't think he's coming. No apology forthcoming from this guy. Not a sincere one.
Are we going to go in here now? I mean, I guess
No.
Okay. All right.
No, we're going to turn to another racist. The president of the United States.
But we will go there later, maybe?
Yeah, I think.
Okay, good.
I think we'll take a crack at discussing the deflections, the defenses, the
artistry,
the spin of the wedge. I'm going to call him the wedge.
The writing.
He's like a human wedge issue. He could keep all.
Widgerton.
I mean, the man could start a solar eclipse.
And this is coming from you.
Yeah, he makes me look quite healthy.
Svelte.
There'll be no apology, sir.
Yeah. But if you want to hear more, perhaps tune in. I don't know what, like
now,
4 o'clock maybe?
What's our rule always been?
If you come on, we'll be nice to you. We are respectful. But if you
we may disagree with you.
Of course, we disagree with lots of people.
But ask Ron Johnson, ask Joel Clayfish, ask Kawinga, ask a number of our Republican friends through the years. If you come on, and our Republican callers, our conservative friends, Gary from Sussex comes to mind. But if you call in, if you participate, we're more than respectful. We're nice guys.
Yeah.
Nicer than you'd think.
Surprisingly.
Nicer than we should be. But if you decline the invitation to come on the greatest radio show ever, well, you just show the fool yourself to be. Just ask Scott Walker. Just ask Nurse Ratchet Leah Vukmer. And just ask your new buddy, the Wedge. James Widgerson from over at Wisconsin Racist Right. So he won't be appearing in the 4 o'clock hour, but we'll talk more about that. But let's turn our attention, Dominic, if we could, to this potential tragedy, this natural occurrence, this, climate change juiced Hurricane Florence that's teetering off the coast of the Carolinas and soon will head inland, I suspect. When is the hurricane roughly going to hit?
I'm hearing Thursday night or early Friday morning.
Now, I've got family in the Carolinas, more inland. I'm hopeful that they're able to bunker in place because I know my brother's not leaving. He's got a dog. He's not leaving his dog.
No.
And I think he's got some broken ribs. I'm not even sure if he's ambulatory himself. He's going to hunker down. Hope he's got some cold ones. And that's how you do it. You batten down the hatches and you ride the storm out. But Jennifer Rubin, a conservative columnist at the Washington Post, writes today, spare us more successes like Hurricane Maria. The Post reports, President Trump leveled a fresh attack Wednesday against San Juan Mayor Carmen Yulin Cruz as he continued to defend his administration's response to the hurricane that hit Puerto Rico last year and asserted readiness for the one now barreling down on the Carolinas. In a morning tweet, Trump called Cruz totally incompetent.
That's, of course, because she criticized him. I'm not clear that he knows what at all she may have done.
I think the wedge might have called you totally incompetent.
What, me?
She was the local official most vocal about the need for a stronger federal response to Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, where researchers have estimated that nearly 3,000 additional deaths occurred after the storm. This is how he reacts when the death toll creeps up to a 9/11 casualty total. We got A+ for our recent hurricane work in Texas and Florida and did an unprecedented great job in Puerto Rico, even though an inaccessible island with very poor electricity and a totally incompetent mayor of San Juan. That was in parentheticals, just most of the tweet. And here's the conclusion. We're ready for the big one that's coming! Exclamation point.
And let's not forget yesterday, Curdy, an incredible, unsung success. The response to Puerto Rico's hurricane.
Well, I'm going to read on from the Jennifer Rubin piece. I don't know who's handing out the grades, but allowing nearly 3,000 Americans to die and tens of thousands to go without power for months is a failure in any reasonable person's mind. His casual attitude about the deaths of thousands cannot be heartening to people fleeing Hurricane Florence. Well, they'll be okay, Dom. They're mostly white. The president's indifference to almost 3,000 deaths has all the components of a Trump self-made catastrophe. One, anyone who criticizes him will draw his venom and attention away from the calamity. His narcissism leads to casting himself as the biggest victim.
Oh, poor me.
Two, the victims are not white and/or many do not speak English. And three, and there's more than three, but I'm going to read three now. Trump considers the problem solved because he says it's solved or he has gone for a photo op. Didn't he throw a paper towel to these people? What more do they expect? This is why his statements are so dramatically at odds with reality.
Jennifer Rubin in the Washington Post. I'll continue, Crudy. Number 4. Unless reading from someone else's script, Trump can't express empathy because he feels no empathy for others. That's why he boasts about the size of storms. He's got to be number one in everything, even the
biggest
size
storm
of the disasters. His
It's
storms
tremendously big and tremendously wet.
Thank you for that insight, Mr. President. His storms were bigger than President Barack Obama's storms. Presumably, Trump thinks the bigger the storm, the more credit, quote unquote, he'll get for addressing it. The notion that the bigger the storm, the greater the suffering never seems to concern him. Number 5. The errors are the result of a systemic mismanagement. With no clear lines of communication, no one willing to tell the president no, no curious or policy-prepared chief executive, and no one ever willing to admit error, you get a string of epic policy flubs. The initial Muslim ban, the zero-tolerance debacle, and now possibly misrouting funds from a real problem hurricanes to a political bugaboo, illegal immigration. The Post reports the Trump administration appears to have diverted nearly $10 million in funding for the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to the U.S. Immigrations and Custom Enforcement, the agency at the forefront of the president's zero-tolerance policy, immigration policy that led to the separation of hundreds of children, some as young as 18 months old, from their parents. And number 6, There is no four-dimensional chess going on here.
I'll say.
The continual search for meaning or strategy behind his self-absorbed, bigoted actions and rhetoric is misguided. Trump is not that clever or farsighted. He reacts in the moment, invariably to protect his own frail ego. His response is, or should be, an embarrassment to any competent advisor operating in good faith.
Dominic, while Trump is bragging, Puerto Ricans are suffering, according to the Washington Post. 2/3 say the storm caused major or minor damage to their homes. Most of them say the structures have not been restored to their original condition. 93% say their areas need more resources to repair roads and highways. Yeah, so does Wisconsin. 50% say people in their households could not get enough water to drink. And 53% said they're still worried about the quality of water in their homes. Also think in Milwaukee. More than 4 in 10 Puerto Ricans say their power was not restored until January or later, 4 months after the storm. I mean, when MG&E takes me down, or We Energies, when you're down for like an hour, you start getting stressed. Try it for 4 months. 4 months without a fridge, 4 months without hot water, 4 months without
4 months in the hospital in an ER unit without a generator. I mean, people died. That is the reason. One of the reasons why people died. It was the lack of action by this administration.
Let me set it home for our Republican friends. 4 months with no internet porn. Oh, just saying. I'm going to read you know me, I got to be snarky.
There's just no other way.
More than 3 in 4 say they lost power for at least 1 hour in the previous month. Not surprisingly, they give Trump lousy ratings for his effort. 80% say he did a fair or poor job, compared to the 15%. What's that? An 80% disapproval? Apparently not enough Republicans in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
15% said he did a good or excellent job. The governor, who spent time slobbering praise over Trump, received bad marks as well. 67% said fair or poor, as did the federal government. 58% said fair or poor. Kind of like my reading abilities.
Yeah,
fair,
well done.
Poor.
Call it poor.
I'm not apologizing for my inability to read aloud either. You know, for those of our friends in Virginia, I'm not sure if they'll be affected all the way to Charlottesville. I got family in Charlotte and down in the Carolinas. I hope that they got, a place to flee to. I think most of them doing well enough. They can flee. They can get a hotel room inland if needed. But the poor, and if you were trapped on an island, like Puerto Rico, let's say, and you didn't have power for 4 months, and this guy calls it a big success, 3,000 dead. No more success. No more winning, please, Mr. Trump.
3,000 dead, Crudy, and incredible, unsung success by this administration.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates, Real Resistance Radio. We're always successful at putting on the greatest radio show ever. Come back with us. Join us on the phones, 844-967-2789.
It's tremendously big and tremendously wet. Sounds nice. It's not nice. It's not good.
I alone can fix it. I really believe I'd run in there even if I didn't have a weapon.
I am sick and tired of big power brokers telling voters what's important instead of the other way around. So I joined the Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. It's a community of like-minded local progressives where the members help determine what issues are important. And with the aid of professional organizers and some of the top progressive strategists in Wisconsin, we make the powers that be take notice and action. We're working on fair elections, the climate crisis, immigrant rights, electing progressive candidates, and more. Plus, we have a campaign called Radioactive that supports this station and Real Resistance Radio. So, come help us reclaim our power as voters.
Become a member of the Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. Go to citizenactionwy.org.
I'm Andy Buck, Field Representative with Painters and Allied Trades of Wisconsin. It's an issue that brings constant challenges for building contractors. How to find qualified painters, glazers, and drywall finishers. IUPAT knows what you want. A professional job performed by skilled workers who care about safety, training, and finishing strong. Workers who are reliable and ready on demand. Let IUPAT provide the people power that you need. You'll feel confident the job is finished right. Connect at IUPATDC7.com and finish strong.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio. Call in live at 844-967-2789 and give your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on local and national topics. Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m., it will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes on Real Resistance Radio. Always streaming live on realresistanceradio.com.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming live on the YouTube and Facebook pages. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio, and you can always hit us up on the toll-free talk line. You can text to at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, you know, it's circumstances like today, natural disasters, when I think this president is probably at his worst. It's uncontrolled by him, right? He likes to be in control, don't we all? Honestly, I'd like to be in control. We all like to be in control. But, well, really any moment he's at his worst.
Well,
I guess thinking aloud.
It's the most consequential. His being at his worst really matters when things like this happen. It's one thing if everything's going smoothly and Trump's just being an ass. But if Trump's being an ass, Trump's just being Trump, and we have this huge hurricane bearing down on us, what did the book, Woodward's book?
Fear.
Let's hope we have no real catastrophes during this man's presidency. And we have one. It's going to hit in about 24, 48 hours.
You mean accepting the catastrophe that is his presidency?
Well, of course.
Let's talk about the Christian conservative response to this hurricane. Florence, Dom, what's Pat Robertson saying?
Oh, he said a prayer. And it's a shield. I think we have the actual cut.
We have a shield prayer?
We do. We do have a shield
kind of like
prayer.
they did in Dungeons and Dragons?
Yes! And it's probably going to work about as well. Fancy Brian, if you would please, cut number 2, Pat Robertson's Shield of Protection Hurricane Florence prayer.
In the name of Jesus, you Hurricane Florence, we speak to you in the name of Jesus, and we command this storm to cease its forward motion and go harmlessly into the Atlantic. Go up north away from land and veer off in the name of Jesus. We declare in the name of the Lord that you shall go no farther, you shall do no damage in this area. We declare a shield of protection all over Tidewater, and we declare a shield of protection over those innocent people in the path of this hurricane. In Jesus' holy name, be out to sea. In Jesus' name. Thank you, Lord.
Be out to sea? At least he didn't say be best.
You know, and so I post this up on our Facebook page today. And, you know, someone pushes back, you know, are you ripping on the faithful? I'm paraphrasing here. But it
wouldn't be the first time for you.
As an atheist, come on, man. I get it. People, whatever gets you through the night, folks, is just don't impose it on me and don't use it to justify bigoted and terrible, murderous behavior. That set aside, whatever gets you through the night. But here's the danger of something like this. Number one, not going to work. Number two, he is a preacher, right? Presumably, he has a flock, and the flock will follow him. When he talks like this, when he says these things, and people...
He's really asking for tithing?
No. Do people literally believe that this prayer will work, and they will not leave? They will not follow the direction of the local, state, and federal emergency officials and get the hell out of there. Why do I got to go? Pat Robertson, well, he gave a shield of protection prayer.
And I've been sending him $10 a month since 1982.
So I can't afford to get on a bus and get out of Dodge. That's the danger.
People without gas money or means of transportation that effectively get trapped, or let's call them inmates. I've seen that there are South Carolina inmates, mandatory evacuation, but South Carolina not evacuating their inmates. And once upon a time, Dom, wasn't it this yokel Pat Robertson, didn't he blame Katrina on the gay people in New Orleans?
Well, it must be, all the gay people. Of course, what else would it be? Why would there be a hurricane? It can't be global warming or, storms, those kinds of things. Of course, it's God's hatred of gay people.
And I'm not cheering for this storm, but if this thing hits South Carolina full on, is that some sort of rebuke of Lindsey Graham?
Let's get some callers. Wisco, Paul, you are up. Thanks for calling, man. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Paul.
Hey, that's an unbelievable prayer there. I don't even know what to say about that.
Amen.
God bless you, Paul.
Jesus? Yeah, okay, well.
God protect you from the Scott holes in the roads.
I don't think he can protect me from that. That's an impossible situation out here. Hey, speaking of Scott hole, tell me the difference between Scott hole and the Cheeto Jesus. There is no difference that I can see.
Bronzer.
They're liars. They're corrupt. And, well, maybe he's a playboy. Other than that, is there any difference between these two guys?
Different hair coloring, I would say, Paul.
One's dyed NASCAR black. The other one, peroxide blondish. My understanding is he won't stick around and wait for the dye to set.
He's so busy, that guy.
He is. Other than the bronzer, I really see very little difference. Come back with us. Got a fine comedian, a friend of ours. He joins us in studio. He's comedian Will Durst, Milwaukee's own. You better stick around. The funny gets funnier, starting right now.
Dear tiny Jesus, your golden fleece diapers with your tiny little fat balled up fist pawing.
He was a man. He had a beard.
Look, I like the baby version the best. Do you hear me? I win the races and I get the money.
Very powerful.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
Hi, everybody. If Scott Walker were made of cheese, would you eat him? I don't know, and I don't want to find out. That's why I listen to Real Resistance Radio.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
So, Jesse, why should someone buying a home pay for an agent when they can go online or call the number on a for sale sign?
Great questions. First of all, never call the number on a sign to see a home. That's the seller's agent, and they don't represent your interests. If they show you a home outside of an open house, you forfeit your ability to have someone negotiate in your corner at no cost to you.
Well, with interest rates still at historic lows, how can buyers still get a great deal and protect their rights?
Step 1, find a buyer's agent that you trust. Your agent will best find the home that fits your needs, anticipate problems, and negotiate on your behalf from offer through closing day. And most home listing contracts stipulate that the seller's agent pays for the buyer's commission.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, they're honest. Whether buying or selling in Madison or Dane County, call Solidarity Realty, 608-284-9311, or find them at solidarityrealty.com.
Live via phone, he is former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel.
Firing Bob Mueller doesn't mean that the prosecution, the investigation goes away. Pardoning one individual does not mean that you undo everything that has been done before. So this notion that somehow by shutting down and by pardoning and by sort of stopping the process, you're also stopping the wheels of justice is simply, again, it's simply wrong.
The Devil's Advocates, weekday afternoons on 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gosted. Democratic candidate for Governor Tony Evers is proposing a new plan to decrease the education gap in Wisconsin's urban schools. Evers wants to devote $13 million of next year's budget to improve performance of African American students in Milwaukee, Madison, Kenosha, Racine, and Green Bay. Evers wants to use $5 million to expand summer school, another $5 million for 3-year-old kindergarten, $1.5 million for teachers who are national board certified, $1 million for health care of students, and $500,000 to expand principal training. In June, Scott Walker said he would soon release a plan to improve Milwaukee schools, but so far, he has not done so. Wednesday, sunshine, high in the upper 70s in Milwaukee, low 80s in Madison. Tonight, mostly clear, low in the upper 50s. For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Keith Gosted.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
This following program is dedicated to the city and people of San Francisco, who may not know it, but they are beautiful, and so is their city.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We've invited down a beautiful guest. He's joined us here in the Brady Street Studios. He's our buddy Will Durst, a fine comedian, originally from Milwaukee. You reside now in San Francisco, Will?
I do indeed. I graduated from the 414 to the 415.
Went a long way.
Yeah, 416 is St. Petersburg, so I ain't doing that. No.
Isn't that where you go to retire or die?
Yeah. I ain't ready yet. Soon.
Come on, no. Yeah. Will, no longer a young man, but you're a work.
Welcome. Hey.
I was speaking of Dominic. He's no longer a young man.
Waukesha South, class of 70. What about you guys?
89, smoking dope and drinking wine.
Where?
Appleton Xavier, north
Xavier.
of here. Yeah.
And I'm an 88 is great. We always dominate graduate of Mount Horrible High School.
Mount Horrible.
Yeah.
Mount Horrible.
In the Madison area.
Yeah. You guys had a good football team.
Not when I played on it.
When I was around. Yeah. Back in the medieval era. Yeah, you guys were wearing the breastplates. You had them before anybody else.
Were you up to the 2-class schoolhouses?
We played 8-man football.
Four divisions. 4 classes.
When I had the opportunity at a different school, I changed schools middle of my high school experience, but I played in the state championship in Division 6.
Oh, Division 6.
And I think there were about 65, 67 in my class.
Holy crap. Where was that?
Pretty much if you had a penis, you were playing football. I mean, I know
they still let you on the team, huh?
They made an exception. I got a note from my mom. So, Will, what brings you back to the
fine? As long as you had an X chromosome. No, I'm doing a little show.
Nice.
Did a bunch of shows in Sturgeon Bay at the 3rd Avenue Playhouse last week. And then Friday, I'm going to be up in Madison for the Fightin' Bob Festival at the Barrymore Theater Friday night. And then Saturday, I'm doing my little one-man show, Durst Case Scenario Midterm Madness, at Comedy Sports, 420 South 1st Street, 7:30 p.m. Tickets available at Brown Paper Tickets.
Sturgeon Bay, that's Door County area.
Yeah.
You know, I went to a play up there a little bit earlier this summer. Had a really good experience.
What theater?
How many
The one
theaters
is-
are in
Wherever my
Sturgeon
wife
Bay?
dragged me.
5.
Come on.
No, not in Sturgeon Bay. But
We were.
there's Shakespeare, Door Shakespeare.
Nope.
There's Northern Sky.
Maybe.
Okay, they have goofy plays.
We don't have to go through all But it was fun. It was a great experience. I enjoy seeing live performances. I mean, there's something about doing it live. We do live radio. I enjoy the process.
Yeah, well, you do the greatest radio show in the history of ever.
Oh, that's what some people say.
Yeah.
I heard that one time.
Yeah, so did I.
Well, what inspired you to do stand-up comedy?
Always wanted to be a comic. I don't know why. Making people laugh out loud on purpose against their will, it just seemed like a fun thing to do.
How did that manifest itself earlier in life? Were you the class clown?
I, like you, went to a number of different schools before I graduated from high school. I went to 14 different schools, so I was always the new kid, always. So
14.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them. I mean, I went to 3 schools in 6th grade, and a lot of them were because us baby boomers, the older generation, were such, and school districts were building schools to accommodate us and growing, and part of it was because my parents divorced and I was bounced between families. So, but West Side boy, New Berlin, Muskego, West Dallas, Waukesha.
And the original latchkey kid, apparently.
Yeah, because my mom was an artist and she worked as a commercial artist for oh man, I can't remember the name. It was a famous, semi-famous back then. They had a catalog and she did that. And
I can only fill in the blanks on Dom's conversational lapses.
No,
Will,
no,
I'm
no.
sorry.
This is way too far for me. So, but I was always, I didn't try to make the class laugh. I tried to make the teacher laugh. Because the kids, I would be gone the next year, and I thought it was a higher thing to do to aspire.
Yeah, you
to
get
make
some
the
reaction
teachers
from
laugh.
the teacher.
Yeah,
that means something. Kids will laugh at anything.
I know.
Just him.
Especially Booger.
He's the greatest co-host ever. You know why?
Because
he thinks my jokes are funny.
No, but that laugh sounds real.
Yeah, it's very infectious.
Yeah, it's authentic.
I'm easily amused, Will.
The best radio co-host ever.
Yes, absolutely. For that reason, if no other, we got a fine guest live in studio, and it's not Dominic. It's comedian Will Durst.
Not a guest. He's a co-host.
Well, I know, but I like to, bust his balls and that kind of stuff. Will Durst in town for a couple of big shows. Madison on Friday night, the kickoff to Fighting Bob Fest. That will be at the Barrymore Theater and Comedy Sports here in town on Saturday night.
Indeed.
That will be fun. Will, I hope to see one or both of those shows. Friday night, probably more likely for me.
Yeah, since you reside in the 608, that would make sense.
I got to ask you, my wife has taken a stand-up comedy class, is in the midst of, the
How old
semester. She's younger than I.
Okay.
Still pretty, unlike myself. I was prettier as a younger man.
I just saw photos of myself at 18. Oh, my God, what happened?
Did you recognize yourself?
Hardly at all. So she's taking classes where?
In Madison, in the Madison area. I'm not clear who she's taking them from, but...
Is it in a club?
It must be some small group sort of setting, and then last night she had to go and do her first little stand-up. No, she doesn't want me to watch. She will read her material to me, and I've tried to, give her a few of my thoughts. Apparently, she doesn't think I'm as funny as Dominic does. She doesn't always incorporate my ideas, but she is a bit of a quiet person, and here's one little suggestion I had for her. I'll include this one in our little thought bubble here. She's quiet. And she was talking about the fact that she went to bingo with her grandmother or someone, and she was too embarrassed to declare bingo on her diagonal in a free space, and she had to slide it over to Grandma, and Grandma made out with, I think it was like $12 and a copy of The Purpose-Driven Life. And I said, I got one more for you. Honey, you're so quiet. Had you been an altar boy growing up, you'd have been a statistic.
Oh, no.
So that's my contribution to her little set.
Yeah.
I hope it got a laugh last night.
I don't think did she say that?
I'm not clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
She told me she appreciated all my suggestions.
Well, you take any suggestion because you never know if it's going to be a verb or a noun or something that clicks in your head. That's why I listen to the news talk. You never know what phrase is gonna click into there and be, because it's all about shortcuts and idiom and contractions of language to say as much as you can in the shortest amount of time.
Well, how about politics? How did you spin your comedy routine, or at least when I've heard you do your commentary, etc.? Will, you're funny, but you're politically funny, and I know that turns some off, but apparently you're a little anti-Trump.
I used to call myself a raging moderate, and I would try to be bipartisan, but America spoke on November 8th, 2016, and I listened, so screw that. I'm going to go after him the same way he went after us, with lies and threats and insults and just making stuff up and personal insults and making fun of his hair. What is that thing on his head? What is it? Is it a wig, a weave, extensions, implants, a merkin, a tribble, a small piece of a pelt of a baby marsupial? What is that on his head? Yeah, so, yeah. Well, also, when I started out, I started doing stand-up comedy in November 1974. And back then, you guys, you were born in 1970. You were born in 71. Yeah. But back then, everything was political. Your haircut was political. Your blue jeans were political. The music you listened to, the movies, everything, because of Watergate and Vietnam and Nixon and the enemies list, and it goes on and on. And so a lot of comics talked about relationship humor, but I didn't have a lot of relationships, so I couldn't mine that very deeply. So I read the newspaper every day. I thought everybody did, because my dad read 3 newspapers a day. My stepdad read 3 newspapers.
Doesn't everybody?
Exactly. That's what
No, not everybody does.
Not now, but back then, yeah.
So what happened? Well, people were dialed in back then, and seems now, even when we were growing up, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention. It took years for me to even give a damn about what was going on. But young kids back then in the late 60s and 70s, they were dialed in. You were picking sides.
5 little letters, DRAFT. It was all about the draft, because you would get plucked up off the streets and sent to a jungle to kill somebody else for your country. And it was all about the draft. When they got rid of the draft, they got rid of everybody's motivation for caring, for giving a...
Unlike draft, social media, a simple click, a like, an unhappy face. That doesn't seem like a lot of actual personal sacrifice to me, Will.
Yeah, there's no skin in the game, as they say.
Although we love the people watching us on Facebook right now. Don't get me wrong, Will.
Oh, hey, hi. Although this guy has energized the left a little bit. I don't know. Everybody says, we're energized. They all said the same thing in 2016. And what was it? Between the ages of 18 and 25, 19% of them went to the polls. 19%.
It's terrible.
Yeah. So screw the kids.
Will, do we...
No, I'm tired of them.
If they can't vote, screw them?
No, I'm tired of their BS. Oh, we care. Oh, no. Yeah, then prove it. Yeah. Go out and vote. Now, don't just vote. Talk about voting. Shake people by the lapels on the street. Accost strangers and tell them to vote. Yeah, it's that important. This may be our last shot, November.
Will, can you win over hearts and minds with humor? I try to be smarky, snarky, a little smart ass with our conservative friends when I can. I try to be respectful, but I'm also trying to show them, I can find some commonality. I'm going to laugh at whatever you said. But let me ask you, do you find that you can win over the conversation? Is comedy a good way, or just, having a sense of humor, is that a good way to lead into political talks with those that maybe don't see things the way we might see them.
I don't know if you can actually change minds. I think what you can do is you can plant seeds of doubt. I think that's what you can do. You can, and then, you know, you can force people to look through your lens, and then maybe they get tired of looking through their lens, and they actually, you know, glimpse a glance at your lens. I don't know. I don't care. I don't care anymore. Really, I'm just going to do what I do. You know, I used to, I don't want to offend anybody. You know, stop being nice, Durst. Just do what it is. And that's a warning that I have to put out for this show. If you think the president right now is a breath of fresh air, this show is not for you.
Snowflake's not welcome at your shows, Will.
Oh, yeah, I'm a snowflake. We're all snowflakes. We're all individuals.
Take the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
But be prepared for what you're getting into.
Oh, I in Sturgeon Bay, I had a couple people walk out, and they were big donors to the theater. So, yeah, theater was not happy because they had to replace the donors. Yeah. So, yeah, I've been getting more and more walkouts. People are more and more polarized.
What do you think of this concept of ideological purity? I mean, I've been catching hell around here. Apparently, at times,
Did you not
some of the
vote
other
for Hillary because you were a Bernie bro?
I did vote for Bernie. I eventually came around to supporting Hillary's candidacy, although Dominic never did because she never came on our show and asked for his vote.
Well, no, that's personal. You know, I met Bernie, and he was a dick to me, so I didn't vote for Bernie.
He was kind of a dick to me as well, but I still like Bernie.
Kind of a grumpy old man.
Yeah, all I wanted was it was at the Fightin' Bob Fest a couple of years ago. All I wanted was a selfie. I had the camera in my hand. All he had to do was look at the camera. I wasn't imposing, you know, here, put on this giraffe head or something. All he had to do was say, no, I'm too busy. And then he demanded he went on before me instead of after me because he didn't want to follow the comedian, which I totally understand. You know, nobody wants to follow the comedian. But I do blame the people who claim there was not a dime's worth of difference between them. I used to, in the beginning, when I started this show, I used to throw dimes at the audience, but now nobody will admit to saying that there's not a dime's worth of difference between them. I used to just have a pocket full of dimes, and we just throw them.
Whataboutism? Dom's really good at whataboutism.
I don't know about that, but no, you gotta come and ask for the vote, and there certainly is a huge difference between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. I have no doubt about that. Donald Trump has brought this whole thing to a entirely different level. I don't know. I mean, there's never been anything to my understanding and to my experience. There's never been anything like this, and I've never seen, you know, these conservatives that claim to be so, you know, philosophical and true to conservatism just roll over for this guy. I mean, what was it like when you were growing up? I mean, you see, Republicans weren't like that.
Yes, they were.
Come on, were they?
Yeah,
the silent majority.
Nixon and you know that after Joe McCarthy was censored by the Senate and he was disgraced on TV and everybody said that he still had an approval rating of 34%. Joseph McCarthy. So this is not anything new. Andrew Jackson was pilloried by people. It was love-hate. Yeah, this has happened before. Not to this extent, and it's magnified and echoed because of the media, the 24-hour media. Nobody ever had that. You know, people were angry at Andrew Jackson months later.
Will, let me ask you, next year could be very much like the year of Watergate. The impeachment, that could be what's all over talk radio, all over the news. I mean, I'm looking forward. I'm sort of relishing the thought.
If the election is fair, if November is fair, then the Dems take the House.
Republicans would tell you, Will, life's not fair.
If it's not fair, I'm filling out that application that I have for the Canadian immigration website, bookmarked on my computer.
You know, weed's legal there now. It's getting better all
legal
the time.
In California, Oregon, and Washington. Weed's legal in Nevada.
Trump's still the president of those states.
That's true.
I mean, Trudeau.
Yeah,
you
choose. TRU.
Very similar.
Yeah, close.
Like Dom and Crude. Very similar.
Yeah.
Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. That's comedian Will Durst.
Best radio show ever.
Yes. Absolutely right. We are the Devil's Advocates. Real Resistance Radio. We'll be right back.
It's tremendously big and tremendously wet.
Laugh now, because you clowns have been on double secret probation since the beginning of this semester.
So thank you.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in the former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
On marijuana, unfortunately, as a public health issue and a public safety issue, I've opposed that.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta, how can medical marijuana help those addicted to opioids?
There's three big things. There's clear consensus now that cannabis can treat pain. That is not an opinion. That is a consensus conclusion by big scientific bodies like the National Academy of Science. We also know that it can help treat the withdrawal symptoms of opioids. People, they don't want to be on it anymore. They want to quit, but they develop the terrible withdrawal symptoms. And now we have evidence that it can actually help heal the part of the brain that is diseased in someone who's an opioid addict. If you had to start from scratch and design a substance to help lead us out of the opioid epidemic, like in a lab, it would probably look very much like cannabis.
Call Governor Scott Walker at 608-266-1212. Tell him good people do smoke marijuana. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
The Devil's Advocates may not agree on much, but funny is funny.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. If you miss any of this fine program, please go to the website, realresistanceradio.com. You can download podcasts and interviews.
You know, it's getting warm up in here. Must be all the sexy. Will Durst, fine comedian, Milwaukee's own, has joined us in the studio. Maybe it's just me. I'm a little moist, I got to tell you, boys.
Yeah, you and the president. Very sexy subject.
Very wet.
Very
large.
Incredibly wet.
It's tremendously big and tremendously wet.
Tremendously wet.
You need
like
a
Stormy Daniels was.
Producer on stage to do the drops like Fancy Brian does.
I know. That would be nice. Yeah. To have all those.
He doesn't travel
I
well.
should have sound effects, too. There's a part where I do a Twilight Zone thing. There's a part where I say that DEFCON 4, I should have a siren alert, you know. I need sound effects.
You do.
I need the yeah, that's what I need. Is the dragon from Reign of Fire. Was that Brian? What was that?
It was an eagle screech.
Oh, it was. Oh.
Freedom.
Isn't the material that Donald Trump offers you each and every day, isn't that enough to just, couldn't anyone be funny in this day and age, Will?
It's hard to keep up. It really is. I switch between baseball and the news, and stuff happens between batters. I feel bad for you guys every day. You know, I can hone a line, and I can fit it in. I finally got my Omarosa piece. It replaced another piece that I had to drop. But have you seen like Rachel Maddow or Anderson Cooper? I mean, production assistants running out of the set during the cold open. Wait, there's more. You know, yeah.
We've got a new lead. We do that sometimes.
I bet.
We have been literally a minute or two from airtime. You know, here's our lead, here's our sound. Oh, God, he did something different. I think it was the anonymous op-ed dropped right in time for our show the other day. The senior Trump administration official, as the New York Times described that op-ed. I want to get your opinion, Will.
I don't think it was one person. I think it was Murder on the Orient Express. I think it was all 12 of them. They all got together and wrote one line and then cobbled it together and put it through some algorithm to give it the same voice.
And do you think Mike Pence's contribution was Lodestar?
Auto-tune, yeah. Mike Pence, who is stiffer than Mitch McConnell and buttless chaps on a gay pride parade float.
Pardon me.
Thank you for that visual,
Yeah,
Will.
that's an image that's going to be tough to scrub.
You slowed the panel down just for a moment. We're
I find it sexy.
reflecting on that thought. Will, I got to ask you, I see that there's a new tell-all. It's not been one book. It's not just Fire and Fury. It's not just Omarosa's book.
Unhinged.
Not just Fear.
Not Just Fear by Bob Woodward. The newest book,
Oh, no.
Stormy Daniels.
Oh, what's she calling it?
Full disclosure. Do you think it will be a porn star that takes down this presidency? I mean, once upon a time, it was John Dean.
The irony is Mike Pence will become president because of a porn star. There's your irony. I mean, Mr. Stiff and religious guy, has to thank the porn star for becoming the 46th president. He's scary. He's scary.
Yeah, let's just get rid of a lot of them.
I think the Democrats should just stretch this out, and just decimate the Republicans and not let Pence in. Because if he has the incumbency, I think it's going to be like Gerald Ford almost won against Jimmy Carter. The general consensus is if the election had been 2 weeks later, Ford would have pulled it out because it was going.
I thought the consensus was if the Trump election had happened on any other day in history, it may not have come out that way. Donald Trump did not have a victory speech crafted, Will.
He did not expect to win.
No, did anyone expect him to win?
James Comey.
Will Durst, funny guy, Milwaukee's own. 2 big shows Friday night at the Barrymore Theater in Madison. That's a freebie, although donations appreciated to the Fighting Bob cause.
Fighting
and
Bob.
Comedy Sports, 7:30 in Milwaukee on Saturday night.
Have you out of there by 9?
9 o'clock.
For
Who
the
wants to
Niner
go
game
home
on
at 9?
Sunday, yeah. I mean, it's the Packer game, sorry. Packer game on Sunday.
Get it right, man.
Yeah.
Won't get invited back.
Right?
Niners fan.
Playing the Vikings at home? 2 home games in a row?
The Vikings, much like the Chicago Bears, they suck, Will. And I'm feeling quite confident that our one-legged quarterback's better than the best they have to offer. Will Durst, thank you so much. We are the Devil's Advocates, Real Resistance Radio.
Thanks,
we'll be right back. Hour 2. It's
Thank you, Brian.
next.
I will call them from now on losers because that's what they are. They're losers.
Can we call that treason? Why not?
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Hi, my name is Shantae, your local Hyatt pharmacist. With more than 10 locations here in the Milwaukee area, we're here to simplify your lives one script at a time. With free delivery to your home or work, where all your medications are brought together in one convenient dosage packaged, individualized to your daily medication regimen. We set up in-house calls with the licensed pharmacist to assist in medication management. We accept all insurance plans. To learn more about Hyatt, visit us at our website, hayatrx.com.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Time running out. Historic impact. I'm Mike Moss. Coastal areas could be feeling the first effects of Hurricane Florence this time tomorrow. So FEMA's Jeff Byard makes one last pitch to get people to evacuate.
It's a dangerous storm. we ask that you heed the warnings. Today's the day.
South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster says more than 300,000 people have already evacuated coastal areas of his state.
This hurricane is bringing some rain and water that we have not seen before in hurricanes. We've seen high winds, notably with Hugo. These winds may be that high as well, but this will likely be more rain than we saw with Hugo or other hurricanes.
In Seabreeze, North Carolina, correspondent Martin Savage says it's decision time.
A lot of holdouts had been hoping that this storm would either turn north or weaken. It is clear now that's not happening. Time is running out. They've either got to stay or go, and officials are adamant. You've got to go.
10 million people are under hurricane warnings or watches at this hour. Apple has taken the wraps off its new iPhones. Here's correspondent Jim Roop.
The iPhone XS, XS Max, and the XR all have the company's fastest, smartest, most powerful chip ever.
By far.
Among the highlights are Siri shortcuts, allowing you to create a series of tasks with a single word or phrase. A camera featuring a post-picture depth of field adjustment, and you can drop it into 6 feet of water for 30 minutes. It'll still work fine.
President Trump has approved sanctions on countries, companies, or individuals that interfere with U.S. elections. The Archbishop of Washington, Cardinal Donald Wuerl, will offer his resignation as he meets tomorrow in Rome with the Pope amid the U.S. sex scandal. Jeff Ager, top executive at CBS's 60 Minutes, is out after being accused of groping women. On Wall Street, the Dow up 27.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
I'm Andy Buck, Field Representative with Painters and Allied Trades of Wisconsin. It's an issue that brings constant challenges for building contractors. How to find qualified painters, glazers, and drywall finishers. IUPAT knows what you want. A professional job performed by skilled workers who care about safety, training, and finishing strong. Workers who are reliable and ready on demand. Let IUPAT provide the people power that you need. You'll feel confident the job is finished right. Connect at IUPATDC7.com and finish strong.
Equal housing lender.
A Missouri boy is recovering after being impaled by a meat skewer through his skull. Correspondent John Stolnis with more.
The Kansas City Star reports a 10-year-old boy is expected to make a miraculous recovery after he fell out of a tree and landed face first on a meat skewer that penetrated his skull from his face to the back of his head. Doctors say Xavier Cunningham's survival was a miracle as the skewer missed his eye, brain, spinal cord, and major blood vessels. The University of Kansas Health System's endovascular neurosurgery director, Koji Ebersol, says the removal of the skewer wasn't easy, but that Xavier should make a full recovery. I'm John Stolnis.
The television network has aired video of Harvey Weinstein fondling a woman who accused him of rape. The Sky News video was recorded by Melissa Thompson when she met Weinstein in 2011. In a lawsuit filed that year, she accused Weinstein of raping her that very day.
5 your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Josh Call, the candidate for Wisconsin Attorney General.
Do you think voter ID had a suppressive effect, not on 100 voters, but on thousands of voters and perhaps tipped the election to Donald Trump?
This is an issue that came up at our trial. And first of all, I should thank you guys because we actually introduced into evidence the recording of you interviewing Dale Schultz, who was talking about the passage of the voter ID law. That was one of our pieces of evidence.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gosted. Kimberly Clark is putting pressure on the state Senate to put together an incentive package that could keep one of their Wisconsin plants open. Kimberly Clark plans to close their Neenah plant that employs about 100 people, but a multi-million-dollar incentive package could save the Cold Spring plant in Fox Crossing that has about 500 jobs. Kimberly Clark is now saying they need to know the status of the incentive package by September 30th. Milwaukee native and Packers tight end Lance Kendricks presented a $50,000 check to Sherman Phoenix Foundation from the Packers as part of their Community Action Initiative program to support social justice causes. Other organizations receiving backing from the PAC include court-appointed special advocates of Brown County, Ha Ha's Hero Foundation, Young Life of Green Bay, and Legal Action of Wisconsin. For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Keith Gosted.
The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one, a funny one, comedian Will Durst, Milwaukee's own. He's got a couple of big shows this weekend. I encourage you, go see Will Durst. You could go to Fighting Pop Fest in Madison at the Barrymore Theater Friday night. Free event, although donations welcome. Or Saturday night. I suspect it costs something to get in the door at Comedy Sports. But the finest of political humor. I mean, he's nearly as funny as I.
He's a funny cat, man.
He's a very funny guy. Certainly more funny than you.
What? Yeah, I don't claim to be funny. Just sexy. 844-967.
Well, now you are funny.
2789.
If that's the claim you're making, I think we're going to need a lie detector.
Nick from Humboldt County, California. Welcome back to the show, Nick. What do you got for us today?
Hey, laddies. I was kind of hoping to say hello, Will Durst. We haven't seen you in a little bit. He used to hit Humboldt County like about every 6 months. It was part of his repertoire. I don't know if he was swinging by for supplies. Who knows?
Nick, that's probably the issue. Now that legalized weed is prevalent all around the United States, less impetus to come get the good stuff from Humboldt County.
Well, that must, yeah, damn it. Anyway, but yeah, we love it. Will Durst up here. We've seen, he's Humboldt, our university up here, HSU. He was up there literally every year, a couple times a year. But anyway, so enough about Will Durst. So here's the deal, guys. I'm a little concerned. I read a book recently called "They Thought They Were Free," and it had to do with just normal people that were in the world when Hitler came to power in Germany, and they were just normal people. And they didn't realize what was happening. They didn't see, like, every time a law was passed, somebody's rights got taken away. And they literally had no idea how this was going to end up. But it took, like, years, but it was just these tiny increments. And so I'm concerned that kind of crap's happening now, and it makes me nervous.
Well, perhaps what happened in Germany, Nick, was, that proverbial frog in the boiling pot. If you just started low, it's a slow simmer, and then the next thing you know, you got cooked frog. Well, here's the good news. If there is good news in the craziness of the nation we're currently living in, Nick, I mean, there's nothing subtle about Trump. This is not happening in slow motion. This is happening in rapid time frame. I mean, we see the shifting tides right before our eyes, Nick. If anyone can't see it, there's an unwillingness to look. They are the literal ostriches because they don't want to see it. But Nick, any reasonable human being, and new polling out shows, I mean, the American public, they are starting to turn on this president en masse. This act is wearing very thin.
Hey, Nick, I got a question for you. California, I haven't talked to you in a while. Are you impacted by the fires out there? I mean, it seems like the whole West Coast is on fire. What's going on in California?
We're behind the Emerald Curtain, right? We're in the redwood zone. We're right on the coast. So if it's too wet right here for any of that kind of stuff to happen. But it happens to people we know. I mean, we had two friends in Redding, which is only 200 miles away, and they lost their houses. You know? So, yes, it's happening to a lot of people. But, myself, I'm okay, and everybody else around here is okay.
All right, Humboldt County, the place to be. Thanks for calling, Nick. Always appreciate hearing from you.
It's not Humboldt County.
Humble?
It's Humboldt.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Well, I know. I'm saying they're not humble about the good weed they grow there, are they?
They have every right to be proud.
International acclaim for the finest of the sticky icky grown in the Emerald Triangle of Humboldt County.
Good stuff.
And we got lots of fans there. I wish they would invite us out, for some legal weed. It'd be nice to not be a criminal.
You're always a criminal, Crudy.
I would jaywalk. I would jaywalk across the highway just to keep up my criminality, my criminal quotient. Kind of like an MPS student.
Oh!
See how I pivoted hard?
Yes, like a little convict.
Like a little convict. Dom, we talked at some length yesterday on the program, Right Wisconsin, or as I described it, Wisconsin's racist right, hashtag. Why I came to that conclusion is a guy named James Widgerson.
Was she a great big fat person?
The editor of the former Charlie Sykes piece, Right Wisconsin.
The website.
Not clear how that whole incestuous thing worked. Charlie worked for the Journal Sentinel and used their resources, and he created his own private enterprise. And then when he left WTMJ, he handed it off to Widgerson. The Wedge, if you will. And you invited him on the show. And Dom, he did respond, and I think it more appropriate, as I did call him a racist, unapologetically called him a racist.
Well, you didn't... Yes, okay, you called him racist.
I'm not apologizing. I'm unapologetic, and I perceived his thinly veiled racial animus to be racist, and therefore I called him a racist, to my opinion. I don't know what it's in his heart, but the words he wrote on the paper seemed kind of racist.
The words he wrote on the paper, let's clarify. Again, this was from yesterday. The new stadium, talking about his former high school, the new stadium is part of an $11 million improvement in the athletic facilities for Milwaukee Public Schools, presumably so the little convicts can have the best facilities before being sent to the penitentiary.
These are high school kids.
Children?
Just saying. But it seems to be a repetition of the attitude of Scott Walker about real children that were sent to Lincoln Hills. They have no value. I don't need to see them. Well, let's stick to what the Wedge had to say, Dom. You invited him on the program, and his response, and I'll just read the beginning, and then you can take over. I'm going to decline if you're going to discuss the issue further. Here's a statement you can read on the air. Well, the question asked by you, little buddy. You read the statement on behalf of James the Wedge Widgerson, editor of Right Wisconsin, if you would so please.
Here's what he would not come on this fine show and say. And I got to tell you, I don't know why he wouldn't. And also, by the way, jump down to rightwisconsin.com to reach out to Mr. Widgerton to invite him on the show. Be damned if I could find a phone number.
They don't really want to talk to you.
Oh, might be a little easier. We have phone numbers all over the place. Ours, James, anybody? 844-967-2789. We take all callers, and we do not screen. Even for you, James Widgerton. Anyway, here is what he declined to say live to you, audience, dissing you. Quote, as a Milwaukee Public Schools graduate and as an alumnus of the particular school in question, I have been a strong supporter of school choice and charter schools as alternatives to keeping students trapped in failing schools. There are nearly 1,000 kids trapped in Milwaukee-Vincent and nearly 25,000 kids trapped in failing schools system-wide, mostly minorities. I will not be deterred from advocating for better educational opportunities for Milwaukee's children. To call me a racist, as a host of this program did online...
That's what I did. Yes, I admit it. I called you a racist.
And then ask me for an interview is such a ridiculous request that it was easily ignored.
It wasn't ignored. You issued a specific statement to tell us in a very snowflake-like fashion why you would not be coming on the big show. Your loss, sir. Your loss.
I'm owed an apology, not a request for an interview from someone who clearly has no interest in the truth.
You could have come here and stated your truth, either in studio or via phone.
Defended your truth.
If that is your truth, if you're not really a racist, if you just sound like one when you write. I mean, there was some effort at cleverness. I could tell he's trying to be a little provocative in some of the writing. You know, started out with the whole tardy, I don't feel tardy. I mean, when you start with the Van Halen song lyric, I could tell the tone of where he was trying to go.
But know what he didn't do in his letter to me, Crudy.
Deny that he was a racist.
And discuss specifically the issues at hand. But he did make a radio appearance today, Crudy. At least one. I think he was scheduled for 2.
But not on the greatest radio show ever?
No! You got to go somewhere where they're going to be really friendly to you.
Doesn't he have a normal radio gig? Doesn't he do the Scafidi
I haven't,
on the Whitey Righty Talk Radio?
That's my understanding. I have
that was the whole premise of his last editorial submission at Wisconsin Racist Right was, you know, normally I do the big hit on Monday, but the Labor Day weekend threw me off. It was a Tuesday. You know, when I do my big radio hit once a week.
The issue isn't school choice or not school choice. I mean, we could certainly have that conversation, James, anytime you want to have it.
We've had Justin Morales, American Federation for Children, in studio.
I went to Appleton Xavier. I went to a private high school. I mean, I understand there are conversations to be had, but what you did not address specifically in your statement exclusively to the Devil's Advocates
is that an exclusive
that you did not easily ignore. Because we communicated a couple of times.
No, he claims he easily ignored us, but clearly you cannot ignore the Devil's Advocates. We get under your skin. We're like a rash.
You did not address the specific concerns of the wording specifically, presumably so the little convicts can have the best facilities before being sent to the penitentiary.
I suspect James Widgerson knows a little something about rashes.
He did release another piece yesterday. Standing by his words, MPS is still failing. Here's what he says. The line, which I read to you, with a link to a Fox 6 story that my critics neglect to mention, is clearly referring to the Deontay Long case. Long, for those who have forgotten, was a Milwaukee, Washington basketball star convicted of armed robbery, a felony, but was still allowed to play by MPS in the state basketball tournament while he awaited sentencing. It's a clear example of MPS's screwed up priorities that they still haven't addressed. Now, so I clicked on the link, Rudy, because, you know, I'm an investigative reporter. See if I can find that link right now. Bear with me. One moment.
Yes, please do.
I clicked on the Fox.
Impress the audience with your investigational finding of your prior articles.
All right, maybe I don't have it immediately in front of me. Maybe you got it in your stack there, Crudy. I think you do.
You keep talking for a moment. I'll do some investigative journalism.
What he claims is not accurate.
Shows you who the true journalist is.
I just printed one out. Trying to save paper. That's how I do it. Here's the Fox 6 Now link that
Tree hugger
Mr. Widgerton put in his article. Milwaukee High School standout, been sentenced for his role in armed robbery. Long, 18 of Milwaukee, in January, pleaded guilty to 1 count of armed robbery as party to a crime. In court Friday, April 20th. Now, this was written on the 22nd of this year. Long was sentenced to serve 4 years in prison and 4 years extended supervision. a sentence that was stayed. Long was instead ordered to serve 5 years probation, also ordered to serve 12 months conditional time in the House of Corrections, 6 months straight time, 6 months release for school. 6 months of that sentence was stayed pending a review set for October 22nd, just next month. Long took to the court as the Washington High School basketball team took on La Crosse Central at the Kohl Center in Madison on March 16th, playing the first round of the Division II state basketball tournament, even though he pleaded guilty to helping commit an armed robbery last year. The criminal complaint says Long with several others robbed a Jimmy John's driver at gunpoint and then went on to steal the car. In the stands, it was all about the game, even from students from the opposing school. If the WIAA was willing to allow this to happen, I think you just have to deal with it, said Sabrina Servas, La Crosse Central student. If he pleaded guilty, manned up to what he did, I'd say, let him play if it were me. Here's the end of the piece. The WIAA said a rule change would be brought up at membership meeting in April of 2019. Right now, pleading guilty to a felony is not covered in WIAA prohibited conduct. So when Mr. Widgerton writes in his piece that it's allowed by MPS allowed it to happen. Well, there's no rule that WIA, the overseeing organization for this, had on the books for this. Wouldn't it really be a criticism of WIAA and not MPS?
Well, that seems almost as disingenuous as criticizing Tony Evers because some teacher in Middleton Cross Plains viewed porn, Dom. And Tony Evers didn't go outside the law and fire him.
Right.
Well, the law said you couldn't fire him. Well, I don't care. We're going to run the ads anyways, right? So Widgerton's logic, much like the Republican logic, deflect your own racist attitudes and blame it on something that really is not relevant. This was supposedly a track. You talked about the fact you're an alumni of Milwaukee Vincent. This student did not attend the high school, and you described multiple convicts, right? That was a plural use. Plural, that's different than singular. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Teaching righties grammar right here on the radio.
Are you a racist? Obviously not. Obviously not.
I don't feel dirty.
I am not a racist. I'm an idiot.
Ever worry that the anonymous millionaires are setting the agenda for our community with little or no accountability? I do. That's why I joined Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. My fellow members and I want to build a powerful and lasting progressive movement. Together, we can help determine the agenda in our own communities. Then we work with professional organizers and a team of leading strategists to make that agenda happen. We're working on health care, economic justice, child poverty, electing progressive candidates, and more. And our Radio Active campaign supports this station and the Resistance Radio Network. So, won't you come help us build a movement?
Become a member of the Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. Go to citizenactionwy.org.
So, Jesse, why should someone buying a home pay for an agent when they can go online or call the number on a for sale sign?
Great questions. First of all, never call the number on a sign to see a home. That's the seller's agent, and they don't represent your interests. If they show you a home outside of an open house, you forfeit your ability to have someone negotiate in your corner at no cost to you.
Well, with interest rates still at historic lows, how can buyers still get a great deal and protect their rights?
Step 1, find a buyer's agent that you trust. Your agent will best find the home that fits your needs, anticipate problems, and negotiate on your behalf from offer through closing day. And most home listing contracts stipulate that the seller's agent pays for the buyer's commission.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, they're honest. Whether buying or selling in Madison or Dane County, call Solidarity Realty, 608-284-9311, or find them at solidarityrealty.com.
the Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening. Talking about Widgerton. James Widgerton, he's the editor of WriteWisconsin.com. We've been critical of him referring to, MPS students as little convicts.
Did you verify the pronunciation of his name?
No. Widgerson, James.
I'm just going to go with
Wedge.
Fat Fatty.
Oh, jeez. Coming from you.
I'm not the only one that thinks he's fat.
Oh, come on.
It's a baby!
Let's go. He went on another radio show today, just not ours. And, of course, the criticism, the looking back, Crudy. He's an artist, like George Lucas, Cut 85.
As a writer, anytime I look back at something, it's like George Lucas looking back at the Star Wars movies. You're going to rewrite things 100,000 times.
Yeah.
I always have to look at things at how I wrote it, at the time that I wrote it. It's just like an artist making a painting. You make a decision with the brushstroke that you make at the time, and that's the way it is. I could kill myself just looking at every little piece that I've written in the choices that I make on word choices and things like that.
Or you could just not broad brush and call MPS students little convicts on the way to the penitentiary, but I'll continue on. Cut 86.
Well, I think it was interesting to see just the number of people that responded telling me that I'm fat. That was interesting. Like, I don't know that, right? So, but thank you for telling me that I'm fat. I appreciate it.
But apparently doesn't know if he has racist tendencies or not.
I did not call him fat until I heard the soundbite on another inferior radio product when he said others think he's fat. Fatter guy.
Cut 87.
But, that comes with the territory. If you're a conservative writer in Wisconsin, you're
or a broadcaster, I get called racist every day.
What do you... Who gets called racist every day?
Who gets called anything every day? Racist every day?
I've been called racist once in my life.
Glenn Grothman.
Yeah. Glenn Grothman said, well, maybe you're a little racist. And he doesn't even know how to say the word. That's why when I say racist, I say it Glenn Grothman style.
One more, Cut 92.
As a writer, you look at things and you hope that people get the full intent of what you're writing. I mean, that's the goal. So to that extent, I probably would have used that word, and I probably would have put a comma after it and said, like Deontay Long, comma. If that's the only change that I could possibly think of making.
Yeah, I mean, that would clarify at least you're talking about. And you did put a link in your piece. I clicked on it, and what you say.
It's not readily apparent.
No, no, but it's fine. Whatever. There's a link there. But even so, you're ripping on MPS versus WIAA, whatever.
Over the actions of one individual,
what
apparently.
You did not do is say, oh, my goodness, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to imply that every student, when I say little convicts, which is plural, I didn't mean them. I meant, like, as an example, like this one who was convicted of this crime. I never meant to be so judgmental and broad brush, and I apologize. That'd have been nice and easy, wouldn't it?
But even if he wasn't racist in his own opinion, he was still judgmental. And he's still going to broad brush, I guarantee it. Come back with us and a fine guest, State Rep Chris Taylor, one of our favorites. More Devil's Advocates on the other side.
Get in my belly! Come on!
He called me fat and said I was going to die on a toilet.
59, your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy59s.com.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling on it.
The dad joke. Corny, groan-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
What did the buffalo say when he dropped his son off at school? Bye, son.
So take a moment to make your kid laugh, because dad jokes rule. Make your kid laugh today. Go to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
I'm Jesse Pika-Holz with Solidarity Realty. If you're looking for a home in Madison or Dane County, call me. I know Madison. I know homes. I'll protect your best interests. Call Solidarity Realty at 608-284-9311 or search solidarityrealty.com.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
You wanted to see me?
Yes, please, have a seat. So here's the thing. When this company brought you on, we took a chance on you. You didn't have that 4-year college degree we typically look for.
Right.
But we gave you a shot anyway. And since then, you've worked incredibly hard and given it your all.
Thanks.
You've been an important asset to the team, but I don't think you can be an intern here anymore. We want to hire you.
You're serious?
Absolutely.
Find your next great employee. Introduce yourself to the Grads of Life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
I won't let you down.
I know.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Looking for a job worth talking about? Teaching is creative, collaborative, and intellectually challenging. See why teachers have better work stories at teachdfw.org and learn more about becoming a teacher. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Tom Perez, chair of the Democratic National Committee. Scott Walker went on something of a Twitter storm, very Trumpian. What do you think this foretells for Scott Walker's future as the governor of the state of Wisconsin?
Wisconsinites have woken up. He talked about we need an optimistic message. How can you make people feel optimistic when you take away their health care? How can you make people optimistic when you take away the right to bargain? How can you make people feel optimistic when you're gerrymandering the heck out of districts?
Radio for the 99%.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gosted. Progressives from around the state will be gathering for Fighting Bobfest this weekend. Fighting Bobfest is the annual get-together for Wisconsin progressive activists. The kickoff is Friday night at the Barrymore Theater in Madison with several speakers including Jim Hightower, Randy Bryce, Mandela Barnes, John Nichols, and many more. On Saturday, there will be picnics in Madison and La Crosse. Then on Monday evening, filmmaker Josh Fox, who produced the movie Gasland, will be headlining an event at Next Act Theater in Milwaukee. All events are open to all progressives, and all events are free except the Monday night event in Milwaukee. And the weather today, sunshine, highs in the upper 70s in Milwaukee, low 80s in Madison. Mostly clear tonight, lows in the upper 50s. Thursday, mostly sunny, highs in the mid-70s. Friday, sunshine, high in the upper 70s. For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Keith Gosted.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we welcome back a fine guest and a friend of ours. She is State Rep Chris Taylor from Madison. Chris, how you been? I understand traveling recently to the Big Easy, New Orleans.
That's right. Very humid.
Very
humid when I was there.
At least no hurricanes while you were there, Chris.
No hurricanes, thankfully, except what was going on inside. But
now, this is
not outside.
It's not your first trip to ALEC. You've been a repeat attendee, even though ALEC is really geared towards conservatives. Chris, we've asked you in prior years, how were you welcomed this year at the big ALEC conference in New Orleans?
You know, I mean, for the most part, quite frankly, I'm just left alone. Most people don't know who I am. The inner kind of ALEC circle, they know that I don't share their beliefs, that I'm not on board for their policies that really attack working people. But for the most part, I go where I want and I go to the sessions I want to go to. I don't think the upper echelons at ALEC, I don't think they like me very much. They're not that happy I'm there, but no one kind of stops me. I go where I want to go typically.
And Chris, do you think Leah Buchmer rats you out? Do you think the Queen of Alec makes sure that they know that you're in the room?
Sure. I mean, I will say, yes, that's probably absolutely true. They do, know I'm there, and I have heard indirectly that my mere presence does kind of hinder some of the conversation that they have. But gosh, if they're on mute when I'm in the room, I can't imagine what they say when I'm not in the room. So they're muted, but to the degree, I'm not so sure, because a lot of crazy stuff gets said.
Now, Chris,
and done, for that matter.
Sorry to interrupt, Chris. My understanding, David Horowitz, who I believe you describe as sexist, hate monger, as does the Southern Poverty Law Center. Chris, what did David Horowitz say at the ALEC conference that you would call out that organization to denounce his appearance?
So David Horowitz is a pretty well-known alt-right hate monger. He goes around with Ben Shapiro, and he's a provocateur. He is designed to kind of get people's reaction, but he has been described by many organizations, not just the Southern Poverty Law Center, as anti-Muslim. He is, there's a lot that's been written about him. The Southern Poverty Law Center's cataloged many of his statements and describes him as kind of this driving force of anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant, anti-black movements. He has his own online magazine, Front Page Mag, that is really kind of this platform for a lot of the very hateful, inflammatory rhetoric and views that you see from the alt-right. So he kind of showed up and gave a couple speeches. And, in one of the speeches, and this is pretty typical of what he says, he basically alleges that our schools have been taken over by the Black Lives Matter movement, and a bunch of radicals and, Muslims have taken over our schools. And then he proceeded in another session to kind of bash the left and accuse the left of just hating the Constitution. And this was in a session where the right is trying to call a constitutional convention to amend the federal Constitution to take away really a lot of, I believe, civil liberties and a lot of rights that have been recognized as being protected in our Constitution. But in this particular instance, Horowitz was bashing the left for criticizing the Constitution for the treatment of African Americans, for how slavery is protected in the Constitution, many different parts of the Constitution, and for the treatment of slaves as 3/5 of people. He's criticizing the left for being critical of those pieces of the Constitution. And I just kind of looked around, at the people around me going, don't you all have a problem with this? Shouldn't we all be reflective and certainly accept that the Constitution is full of imperfections in the treatment of African Americans and in the embodiment and the protection of slavery? But nobody said a thing. I seemed the only person raised any eyebrows. And then he also proceeded to really just extol President Trump for bashing Rosie O'Donnell, calling her a big fat pig. I looked around, nobody saying anything. So eventually, and I've never ever done this, ever before, but I felt, I really do have to make known I do not share these values being expressed. I oppose what's being stated, and so I did stand up and I particularly referenced those two comments. So there's so many others. I mean, you could just go on and on. And I could hear a couple people in the back clapping for me, but pretty much everybody else didn't say too much in the room.
Folks,
in fact, they said nothing, actually.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. That's our pal, State Rep Chris Taylor, joining us on the phone. Chris went to the ALEC conference. And Chris, you wrote an article when you got back, and apparently Mr. Horowitz took some exception. You got a nastygram from his attorney. What's that all about?
Yeah, so it's very interesting because one of the things that David Horowitz just complains about is that the left is blocking him from speaking. So I stand up. I'm one person out of 2,000 people at ALEC that stand up and respond to him, right? So he has the right to speak. I have the right to express myself and to say, I don't agree with you. I think these are unacceptable things you're saying. And so, you would think that maybe he would recognize that I also have a First Amendment right, but apparently not. So I did write an article just describing this instance, this interaction that was published. And then I get a cease and desist letter from David Horowitz's attorney threatening to sue me for defaming him, which is, it's kind of very interesting. I quote him pretty much verbatim in my article. I reference the Southern Poverty Law Center article where they identify him as being one of the top hate mongers and anti-Muslim voices in the country. And I specifically quote that from the Southern Poverty Law Center. So it's interesting. He didn't take issue with me describing him as making racist and sexist comments. He doesn't refute that at all. His issue is that I quoted the Southern Poverty Law Center. And that piece he's alleging was defamatory, that somehow I'm defaming him by quoting this very reputable, respected organization.
Now, Chris, so you replied through an attorney as well. Where does it stand now?
Well, I am an attorney, but I did get an attorney and did reply.
Attorneys getting attorneys.
Attorneys getting attorneys. I mean, yeah. So, it's really just designed, in my opinion, this is a tactic that this David Horowitz used. I mean, he threatened to sue a UCLA student, who spoke out against him. So this is a tactic he uses really designed to shut me up. He does not want me speaking. He does not want me commenting. And so it's this whole fallacy that is really so embodied, I think, in ALEC, that they like the First Amendment, but only for their own speech.
Right.
When you speak out against what they're saying, they have a huge problem with it. And, subsequent to my article, a bunch of progressive groups wrote a letter to some of ALEC's corporate sponsors saying, look, they invited a hate monger into their midst who made a lot of very derogatory comments about people of color, about women. And, and Horowitz doesn't like that either, but that is also the right that's protected in the Constitution to assemble, to petition, to organize. But the right just does not recognize that. They don't want to talk about that speech, and those activities are also constitutionally protected.
Chris, how does ALEC as an organization walk the fine line? I mean, they're Koch brothers supported. They want the tax cuts. They love the tax cuts. But the rest of Trump's policies, they want to pretend like they're above that sort of whatever.
Yes.
Chris, how can they differentiate themselves from the actions of Trump when they book a guy like Horowitz as a speaker?
Well, that is a very good question. And ALEC has really has this kind of, what I've observed of them, they kind of have this love-hate relationship with Trump. He was not their first choice, right, as a Republican nominee. He wasn't even the second or third choice. But what they have realized is he shares some of their very important goals. One is tax cuts for super rich people. Okay, so that's a huge priority of ALEC. And also, the other priority is to deregulate everything, particularly when it comes to the environment and to gut environmental protections. So they really do share some of the really key pillars of Trump's presidency, and yet they want to act like they're above the bombastic rhetoric of Trump, the hateful rhetoric of Trump. They kind of want to distance themselves from him in that sense. But I think by inviting this person in, who, it's not just the Southern Poverty Law Center who's called him and recognized
you know,